This is my 1985 Ford Bronco. I've been doing a lot of remodeling and refurbishing since the day I've had it. As you can tell, I have completely rebuilt the tailgate, and I've also completely rebuilt the roof. The roof was really badly leaking due to rust holes, and the tailgate was just about falling apart. I've learned a lot from building this truck to where it is now, just in the past year, and I thought I can go ahead and help teach others, if not teach myself, how to properly restore and rebuild a truck. So through this, I've decided to make a YouTube channel called The Pony Garage. So for the first video on Pony Garage, I decided to do something simple. I want to repaint these plastic sidewalls and customize it to my wants. I plan just to pretty much repaint it, maybe add some emblems here and there, but other than that, it's going to be pretty simple. So we're going to start with first unhooking the lights that I've already put in and taking out these side panels and prepping them for paint. So to remove that was fairly easy. It's just a couple of screws and a couple of trim clips, and they come right out. You want to get them laid out on a nice clean surface. The floor is the best I could do, but I laid down clean paper to add as a backing to make sure everything stays clean. But the next thing I have to do is remove these lights. On my trim, I have a bunch of random holes that the owner before me had put in. For example, holes like these two holes. Both of these are not needed for mounting into the car. And so I'm actually going to use something called Quick Steel. It's a plastic repair. It's kind of like JB Weld or Steel Stick, whatever you guys like to call it, and it helps form the plastic together. I'm doing that, and I'm going to remove ashtrays just because they're all rusty and nasty on the inside, and I can actually do something different with that real estate. Probably something better. If not, I'll probably just clean them up and put them back on. But for now, I'm just going to take them off and leave them off until I find something else to do with them. So for little things I use like this Quick Steel, I'm going to put in the description just so it's easier for you guys to find. I probably won't be making any money off of it, but it'll just be easier for anybody else to find. First thing you want to do when you're using the steel stick is to clean everything with acetone. The acetone helps get all the oils and things that will help, or things that will make the JB Weld not stick to the plastic. You want to make sure everywhere that you are sticking the JB Weld is clean of all oils or dirt or anything that will help it not stick. When you're using the acetone, you want to make sure that you wear gloves, and you want to use some type of lint-free cloth. I'm using more so a white t-shirt that I don't use anymore, but you have to make sure it's very clean and oil-free. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the steel stick. You don't want to cut off too much because it has a very short hardening time, and so if you cut off too much and you can't use it all, it's to waste. So I like to cut off just under enough that I know I can use it, just so I know it has plenty of time to harden. So about that much is a good bit. And so to knead this, or to mix it I should say, there's a core and there's an outside. You want to pretty much mix them together as best as possible by squishing it, folding it, tearing it, just until you have one solid color and not the two different colors which you see originally. Now this stuff can stink really bad, and it'll also heat up in your hands during the chemical reaction, but once it starts to heat up, you know that the time is coming close to when it will begin to harden. So to apply it, you just rip off a small piece that you need, and you want to plug the hole or the crack or whatever you're using, and you want to smear it out as best as possible. And then you want to kind of wipe the outsides. One, to kind of help level it out, and two, to scrape off excess steel stick that you don't want to waste, because this stuff isn't really cheap. So after about 5 minutes of mixing the quick steel, it will begin to heat and harden. Once it's hardened, you want to wait about another hour until it is actually fully cured. And that's when you'll be able to sand it down or paint on top of it, whichever. So I've gone ahead and waited for about over an hour, and I'm going to begin to sand it just because some of them are a little bit thicker than I really wanted them to be. And so I'm going to sand them down, try and make it as flush as possible with the plastic. To sand these down, I'm just going to use a normal sand block with 80 grit sandpaper on this, just to kind of get it nice and level. I'm using filler primer as a primer coat, so I'm not really worried about little imperfections, just because that filler primer is going to help fill in the little divots. So one thing that I have learned while sanding is that it's better to close your eyes and feel for a perfectly flat surface than it is just to eyeball it. Your sense of feel is actually a lot more sensitive to a rougher surface. Like right now, I can close my eyes and I can feel that white notch is still there. So if I just take my sandpaper, sand it a little bit more, then I feel again. If I can't feel that's there while my eyes is closed, then it's probably, perfectly smooth. So after you have everything sanded, if you are going to be sanding, it will be looking ugly before it looks pretty. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to be adding symbols or emblems or whatever you want to call them within this board. So I'm going to be putting a stencil right inside this little cubby. To start off, you want to wipe the entire thing out with acetone and make it perfectly spotless clean. You want no oils, no specks of dirt, because all that will show up in your final product. And before we paint, you just want to make sure that you have everything that you don't want to get paint on taped off. Taping off is probably the #1 most important thing during painting, just because painting is probably 90% prep and 10% actually spraying. Cleaning everything with acetone or rubbing alcohol and taping off are probably the 2 most important things and the 2 most difficult things. Because for a really good paint job, you don't want any little specks of dirt, you want no oil, and you want to make sure everything is perfectly taped off, perfect lines, so on and so forth. And don't cheap out on painter's tape. So now that everything is rubbed down with rubbing alcohol, and I have my armrest taped off, which I'm actually keeping it that red color for the time being, you are now pretty much ready for paint. Just to kind of give an estimation, this panel right here took me no less than 30 minutes, probably closer to 45, to actually completely wipe down and make sure it was completely dust free. I just finished shaking this can for approximately 2 minutes. That's what the bottle recommends, or the can. And so now it's pretty much time to spray. So to spray, you want to do short, even bursts. So for example, you want to test on a piece of paper or a piece of cardboard at first, something that you can throw away at the end, something you don't really care about. And so you just want to do short, even bursts. And it's okay if you don't get everything in one coat. You're always able to go back with a second coat. But if you put too much on, you cannot go back. If you put 20 little coats on, it's a lot better than putting one very, very thick coat on and it'll wind up dripping and running, and so it's pretty much a waste at that point. So I'm going to start from this side and I'm going to work my way all the way down. So after you have a nice coat of primer on and it has fully cured, I guess you would say, which my primer was about 10 minutes. You always want to read the back of the can. Most primers are different, just depending on which primer you get. You're ready for your actual color coat. So I'm doing something a little bit different, and I'm actually making emblems to actually go within the panels. And so I'll kind of explain how I'm doing that. It's better to show you than to tell. So I'm going to start by putting this red coat on just the spots that I'm putting emblems, which is going to be right here, and on the other panel is going to be along right here. So I've let this sit overnight just so I can make sure all the red paint is 100% dried and 100% cured. So this is the stencil I'm going to be using. It's the Bronco symbol, and I'm actually going to be putting Bronco letters on the other one, but it's easier just to kind of show you guys with this Bronco symbol. Alright, so what I've just done here is I've taped up around the area where I'm going to be putting the stencil. What we want to do next is put the stencil down along the tape wherever you want it, and then pretty much all you're going to do is trace an outline of it. And then I would recommend using a pencil, just so you can erase and probably make some changes as you need to. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and trace this out, and I'll show you guys afterwards. So I know it's going to be kind of hard to see, just because it's the pencil and the blue. But I have the Bronco symbol all traced out. Now what I'm going to do is take a razor blade and actually cut out the whole stencil to where I can peel out this outside border, and all that's left is the Bronco symbol that's in the middle. Alrighty, so I have everything cut out, and I know it's still hard to kind of see, but you want to start pulling off one piece of tape at a time. Then you want to do this very slowly, because if you miss one little nick, you can rip off the whole stencil and you'll have to restart from there. So like right there, push that back down, then I'll get my razor blade and correct that little nick, and then we'll be good to go. So I have it about halfway curved out, and pretty much I'm just kind of picking away at the tape as I go along, and any pieces that I might have missed over or didn't cut deep enough, mostly during like the piece right here or up here where I had to overlap the tape a little bit, I didn't cut all the way through, and so I just have to recorrect that as I'm going through, and but as it's going on, it's pretty nice. So this is the final product. I went around the outsides because there was a little frays, and you want to make sure there is no fray marks, or it's going to be kind of like a misty look, kind of like a fade more so, and so like little nicks. For instance, I don't know if you can see that, but up here, how it's not completely flush. You just want to clean those up as best as possible. But after you do that, this is pretty much ready for the black coat. You just want to take another completely clean, lint-free cloth and kind of wipe it out and try and get out any little particles of dirt that you had dropped in here or around the surface that you were cutting. Okay, so now that everything's ready for paint, you want to shake your can of paint for about 2 minutes like usual. And this is what I'm using, the Rust-Oleum Professional Black. So I'm going to have the glossy red for the Bronco symbol, and everything else is going to be matte black. And so after you paint it all, you're going to peel that sticker away, and whatever was under that sticker is still going to be red. And so I'm going to go ahead and paint this. I'll probably put about 2 to 3 coats on, and I'll show you guys the afterworks. Alrighty, so now that I have both of my panels painted, as you can tell, you can no longer see the emblems just because I painted over them a little bit. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the stickers or the taping, whatever you want to call it, and it's going to reveal pretty much just that red, and there will be no black where I put those stickers down. So these actually came out pretty nice. There's number 1, there's number 2. What I'm going to do now, some of the paint actually chipped around it. It was more so chipping from the tape more than from the actual trim itself. And so I'm just going to kind of clean that up a little bit, maybe get a damp cloth, and just try and pick up all the little particles. And then I'm going to use some clear coat, and I'm just going to coat the whole thing in clear coat, probably another 2 to 3 coats, and then let it sit overnight. Maybe let it sit for tomorrow as well. Make sure it's fully cured, and then I'm going to throw it back on the truck. Alrighty guys, this is about 3 layers of clear coat. I'm going to go ahead and take the tape off the armrest, and I'm going to go ahead and throw it back up in the truck. It's just a couple of screws and trim clips. I'll show you guys the aftermath. I might put a picture of how it used to be before. Alrighty guys, I know it's really dark. You can't really even see this side, but they're all finished. They're looking nice. They especially match the tailgate, if you can't see that. Tailgate in the bed of the truck. They look really nice. Some things I would like to, or I would have liked to change is I wish I would have added more. Just that one little red spot, you know, on each panel. Isn't really a lot of red, and it just kind of looks out of place. I would have added more red spots, you know, more like symbols farther up, just to kind of space them out, make it look a little bit nicer. Armrest also look pretty bad. I'm gonna change those out at some point, buy some new ones instead of painting the vinyl. But other than that, I think it's all finished. Alrighty guys, so if you like the video, of course, like and subscribe. I'm gonna give this YouTube thing a try. I've taken a couple video editing classes throughout high school and know a good bit about editing. So like I said, like and subscribe. Leave any comments if I get any views of anything else you think I should do to the Bronco. I'm gonna be, of course, showing some rust repair tutorials, and I might be changing out those mirrors, and eventually this whole truck is going to be black and bed lined. That's of course going to be over time because there's plenty of rust to repair, tint to redo, probably buy new tires at some point, lift kit of course, and some internal issues. Not much, just an oil leak. But just beside that oil leak, I think that's about it. And I'll probably be posting some off-road videos just to kind of show off what it can do. So hope everyone has a great day, and like and subscribe.